Hello people, and welcome to the channel. If this is your first time on the channel, a special welcome to you. And I ask that you check out my other videos, but without a doubt, like I always say in this channel, hit that subscribe button to see what else I may come up with in the future. So today, I'm going to talk about mother's baby, father's maybe. And I'm going to do a comparison between the Jamaican culture and the United States of America culture. And the reason why I've decided to do a comparison with the United States of America is because the idea of this topic was actually sparked from an American program that I was watching. There is this program on YouTube called Paternity Court where people go to do DNA tests, DNA swabs, DNA comparison to find out who's the baby father or who's not the baby father, and so on and so forth. After watching a few of them, as usual, you know, entertainment usually leads to conversation. And after watching a few of them, I was just commenting that the United States of America's culture is so extremely different from the Jamaican culture that I know. Because growing up in Jamaica, for all you guys who are new to the channel and don't know, I'm a 70s kid. Grew up in Jamaica in the 70s and the 80s. So most of my references goes towards that time. You know, because in this channel I try to speak facts and do not speculate. So comparing the United States of America's culture versus the Jamaican culture that I know when it comes to cohabiting, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to infidelity, when it comes to relationship. Jamaica and the United States of America are on two different levels. Now, before I even get into the DNA views and whose baby is it and so on and so forth, let me first say props to my mom, her mom, and all the mothers of Jamaica who had their children, let me say, from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and so on. Especially the single mothers, because when I went to the United States of America and I was living there and I started to understand the way the system works, I realized how spoiled Americans were. You know, because, and when I say that, I don't say that in a negative way. What I'm trying to say is, in Jamaica back then, and I would still say now, when a single mother, for example, has 3 kids or 4 kids or 10 kids, and she's pretty much on her own. There's no real government aid, there's no welfare assistance, there's no food stamps, there's none of that. So broke in Jamaica means broke. You know, so it's kind of a superwoman, super mothers in Jamaica to raise kids without employment and without any money. You know, you have to just find ways to feed your children. And we must give props to the Jamaican culture. Our culture may not be rich in finances, but when it comes to being there for each other, we have to give props, because a lot of Jamaicans who are adults today, especially that were born and raised in the inner city, aka the ghetto, we know that even though it's our mother raised us or our father raised us, in a way the neighborhood raised us, you know, the neighbors raised us. That extra cup of salt, that extra piece of yam, that hand of banana, and so on and so forth, that all fed us. And most of us had lunch, had dinner, and went to our bed with a belly full from time to time by meals that was provided as a contribution of the love or the friendship that Jamaicans have with each other. You know, they look out for each other. In America, it doesn't really work that way. The United States of America and its culture rides on money. Everything is about money. And I mean, in Jamaica, we all need money, you know. We the men will say, that girl, they love money, or she love rich man, or she want man with money. Everybody needs money. But at the same time, it's a different kind of gold digging in Jamaica. than, say, gold digging abroad. All women, all female of the world, Jamaicans or non-Jamaicans, they are looking for security. So they're looking for protection of any sort, financially, emotionally, physically. So I do not point fingers, I do not turn up my nose in any woman that finds attraction to a man who can provide. But at the same time, the underlying, most of us Jamaicans, you know, we're a love child, we're love children. We were born out of the love that two person found for each other. When it comes to the bloodline, the difference with Jamaicans and Americans is this. Jamaicans, I think the men, the fathers of Jamaica, we have to take our hats off to them because they're a different breed. They're a different breed of human being when you compare them to the United States of America and fathers or potential fathers, because I would say 90% of Jamaican men would father a child even though he knows that that child do not carry his blood, do not carry his gene. And the love and the support that that child would get, that child wouldn't know any difference if it wasn't for neighborhood gossips or this new influence of who's your daddy, who's your real daddy. I mean, let me know if I'm wrong, because I'm only speaking from my perspective. If you have a different perspective, let me know. Like I say, hats off to the Jamaican men, because let me use myself as a personal example. I have a biological father, without a doubt. I must have, I'm here, right? But I don't know my biological father as much as I knew my stepdad. And if no one had said to me that that was my stepdad, I probably wouldn't even know the difference, because he's never said to me, I'm not your dad. And wherever we went when I was a kid, he introduced me to his friends as his child. And I have a deep bond with this man that if you should put him on a pedestal and put my dad, my biological father, on a pedestal, without a doubt, I would choose this man who is my stepdad, or once was my stepdad. And I know that I'm not the only Jamaican who has this feeling or who feels this way, but let me get back onto what I'm trying to say, because on the program that I was watching, you've got people who are 30 years old, 40 years old, and for some reason, after living 40 years, they want to know, or they heard that so-and-so is not my dad, and I need to know who my real father is for one reason or another. I'm not here to influence anyone's thought. I'm just here to tell you what I personally think of such thing. If I live 35, 40 years without being introduced to a human being that was said to be my biological father, as mean as it may sound, as insensitive as it may sound, I could care less. Whoever was there for me, whoever fathered me, whoever guided me, that's who I would regard as my father in all aspects, you know, and I would not so much care about this other person who claims to be the contributor to the blood that goes through my vein. So the difference between Jamaicans and Americans is this. When it comes to parenting, money plays a big part. There is child support. There's people in debt for child support for 40 and 50,000, some ridiculous money that they're supposed to pay child support. At the same time, there's been people who's been paying child support for years, only to find out years later that the money that they were paying was wrong because the child isn't biologically theirs. You see, when it comes to Jamaican parenting, Jamaican culture, that doesn't play a part. In Jamaica, we have a saying, man a man. That simply means if you're a real man, an adult, someone who respects themselves, someone who earned the respect from others, no court system, no legal document has to be issued for you to take care of your children. And I think that attitude comes from the poverty that we were brought up from, that we keep the court system out of it. And mom and dad, or mom and stepdad, they do what they can do and they provide for the children. At the same time, in Jamaica, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of deadbeat dads. So at the same time, not all man are man, as the way I said it, because you've got men in Jamaica who know that it's their children, and even though he's not rich, even though he doesn't have it like that, he would never bat an eye. He would never give that kid $1, a sweet, or a pair of shoes. So I'm not saying Jamaican men are extremely different from the men in the US. I'm just saying the culture of fathering is totally different in Jamaica than in America, because you know, from my first-hand experiences, not only my personal experience, but you know, I had friends growing up, I lived in the neighborhood, and I see how things work. And some of the kids that I grew up with, I knew so-and-so as their dad, and only when we became adults, I heard that, oh, so, you know, it wasn't my father, you know, it's my stepdad. But we just wouldn't know the difference, because when children are born in Jamaica, some Jamaican men meet a woman who got ditched by some deadbeat ex, and he probably met her when she was pregnant, 6 months, 3 months, whatever. And Jamaican men are not usually the ones to go, well, yo, that's not my kid, or yo, that's not my picnic. Jamaican men that's not a part of the culture. The Jamaican culture is, if I take you and your kid, born or unborn. However, if the kid's father is active in the child's life, a Jamaican man will step back and let the father do his thing. But what I'm trying to say, in the case of where there's no dad and a Jamaican man step in, he's dad. And at no point the kid would take his stepdad to court, or at no point this Jamaican kid would take his parents to court, because whether or not the parents ever disclose to the child, you know, I watch the program and they go, well, the child has a right to know who is his dad and who is his real father, and to a level I disagree. I disagree to a level, and the reason why I disagree, I've seen a lot of that in real life. I've seen where people stir up situations that was laid dormant for years and ended up regretting it. You know, I had a friend many years ago who was clearly adopted because she was black. Her parents were white, and she didn't have to ask any questions. As a matter of fact, her mom and dad, her adopted mom and dad, they ran a church. So I'm sure they were straight up with her and says, you're adopted, but you're our daughter. She invited me to her adopted parents' house, and I went there. And if it wasn't for her skin color, I couldn't quite tell you that that wasn't her parents, because her photos were everywhere in the house. Her high school diplomas, her achievements, everything that she did. The love was obviously overwhelming. And that friend had said to me once that she's gonna go look for her biological parents. And my first question to her was, as a Jamaican, does your mom and dad know that's your intention? And she was like, no. And I was like, well, as much as it may not be my place to say, my view would be, don't do it. Leave that alone. Because unless it's okay with your parents. If it's not okay with your parents, I mean, that right there, it's just not a Jamaican thing to do. If a Jamaican kid is adopted, if he was told a story that, listen, your parents threw you away in a garbage can when you were a baby, and we came along, picked you up, did the necessary paperwork, and fought and parent you, it wouldn't even cross a Jamaican child's mind that after they become an adult, mom, dad, I want to go find out who my real parents is. It's just not a part of the Jamaican culture. For all the Jamaicans out there that's watching at the moment, I would love to hear if you agree with that statement or disagree with that statement. So without even making this video too long, I just want to say the whole purpose of it is to give mad credit to the single mothers of Jamaica or even the dual parents of Jamaica, because when we parenting children as Jamaicans, that's what we do. We parent children and we could care less whose blood run through their vein, whether we adopt them or whether the mother left them or whether the father left the woman with the kid. I have to give mad props to the riches of the Jamaican culture. And before signing off, I have to give shout out to the Jamaican aunts, the sisters, and especially the grandmothers, because it's the only country that I know of, it's the only culture that I know of that you could have a kid, leave it with your grandmother, don't come back, and your grandmother would take care of that kid. Your grandmother would not get police involved. Your grandmother or your sister might be mad as hell, but they know that it's my sister kid or it's my brother kid, and I'm gonna raise it like it's my own. So mad props to my Jamaican people. You know, when I watch these programs and I criticize them and I realize that there's Jamaican people might have brought up on a certain level of poverty, might not have had the best clothes or the best food. But when it comes to love, despite all the violence that the media try to portray and all the evil that they try to portray in Jamaicans, when it comes to Jamaica, there's a certain level of love that can't be measured by money, municipality, or court system, justice system, judicial system. So mad love to my Jamaican people, and I look forward to hear you guys give me some feedback on this channel. And yeah, that's pretty much it for now. Until next time, peace.